you don't want to make it look like you're doing it. You can say, isn't it true that your plan cuts the income tax? And they're like, yes. And they can't say anything more. And you're like, okay, isn't it true that the income tax provides a lot of revenue? And they're like, yes. And you're like, isn't it true that the government's in debt a lot? Yes. They can't do anything. And you're like, is debt bad? And they're like, yes. So you lead them along this trail, and they can't. Yeah, they can't go. You're making this trail, and you set the barbed wire fences on either side. And so they're like, I can't go anywhere else. Like, he's leading me, dang it. And that's the beauty of cross-examination, is you're standing up here and you're like, I'm asking the questions, you're answering them. Like, sit down, boy. Like, you hold the rod. You hold the whip. You get to put the blinders on the other person. Now, when you stand up for your first cross-examination, that's going to be hard. Because when you want to understand their case, it's hard to ask yes or no questions. So in this instance, it's okay to use non-yes or no questions. You can say, hey, that third mandate, I didn't really quite catch that. Could you give that to me really quickly in as few sentences as possible? and you can ask that, and they'll be like, okay, I respect that. It does this. And you're like, great, thank you. Moving on. So it's okay to ask yes or no questions, non-yes or no questions when you're trying to understand the case. Everything else should be as succinct as possible, should do as much damage to them as possible. Let's see. Okay, there's a book, if you want to learn how to do it, if you guys are going to do debate later, by Cody or Travis Hirsch called Keys to Cross-Examination. It's the best book out there on cross-examination, like literally. It just gives you thing after thing after thing after thing, and you're like, oh, I can use this next round. This is so good. I love this. Like, cross-examination is one of the easiest ways to win a round. What?
Who's it by?
Either Cody or Travis Hirsch. H-E-R-C-H-E. Okay. Cross-examination, yes. Cross-ex can win you debates. Let's see, what else on cross-examination?
What happens when someone leads you with questions?
Ha! I love that question. So this is when you're the examiner. When...
Try to make him interrupt you?
No, it's even better than that. It makes him look like a fool. This is when you're the respondent. When you're the respondent, some teams will get up there and they'll ask leading questions to get to a big picture. So your case cuts down a law that maybe is really just, but you're trying to prove that it's a corrupt law, and negative tries to prove that it's just. So they'll get up there and they'll be like, is justice good? And you're like, well, if I answer no, the judge will think I'm a jerk. If I answer yes, then they'll just be like, they said in their cross-examination that justice is good, but they really don't believe that. So the way to answer that question is you get up there and you're like, well, that's a question that is asking a bigger picture, and that's going to take about 35 seconds. Can I answer that? And because then you're like, I want to answer that, but I also want to suck your time. So I'm politely asking if I can suck like a third of your cross-examination. And they're like, and if they say no, then that shows that they didn't really want your answer. They were just trying to suck up to the judge by asking like really broad questions. And if they say yes, then you're like, great, because now you have to cut me off to stop me. And then you just go. Like, so with that said, don't eat up too much time, because then the judge will realize it's disrespectful. Use up just enough time before you think you're going to lose the judge, and then shut up, because it's the perfect time that you're going to use. So don't eat up too much time, and honestly, that's disrespectful. Because if the other person did it to you, you'd be like, just stop it, please, like, stop it. So another cool way, when you're the examiner, if you try to cut somebody off and they don't stop, say their name. I can guarantee you automatically stop.
Do you call them in debate, do you call them by their last name? Do you say Mr. or Miss?
You'll generally know them. If you don't know them, just don't refer to them as anything. Don't give them that opportunity, because then you're like actually giving validation to the fact that they're alive and breathing, and you don't want to do that. But if you know them, then like say his name is Jones, and he's talking, and I'm like, isn't it like okay, like thank you, but, and he just keeps talking. I'm like, Jones. He's like, yes, thank you. Like,
No,
people.
I meant like you call them like
Oh.
Do I say Chris or do I say Mr.?
No, say yeah. If you know his first name, say his first name. He is an interlocutor. He's not a superior. He's a colleague in debate. He's the same age as you. So we've been taught from a very young age to respond to our names, right? So when he's talking and you say his name, first of all, he'll be like, okay, that's really weird. What does he want? And then he'll stop. I can guarantee you, I've seen it done like all the time, and it's so cool. Okay, well, maybe you're the exception. You're special. Okay, so that's the way you do that. Any other questions on cross-examination? And I've literally gotten all this from the book, Keys to Cross-Examination. It's the best book ever on cross-examination. It does, like, literally, you can win so many cross-examinations by doing that. Yes, you really should. And I could talk for a lot more time about cross-examination, but what?
Kindle edition.
That's a good idea.
Apparently Amazon now lets you pay $9.99 to read as much books as you want.
That's a good idea too. All right, so let's talk about post-debate and squirrel cases. Two ways. And they're two different things. So we'll talk about squirrel cases first, because they're kind of a novice debater's nightmare. And I can maybe say you'll hit some of them at this tournament. Squirrel cases. Can anybody tell me what a squirrel case is? Squirrel.
So you bring the squirrel in.
There we go. Squirrel. Yes.
Okay, so would it possibly be where they just continue to lead you off in a random direction, similar to like a red herring?
Squirrel. Yes, kind of like that. That's a good logical fallacy too, red herring.
Because when you bring in a squirrel in with a suitcase and he gives out a case for you.
No, not quite. Squirrel case is a small, random, stupid, weird case. Literally, that's what a squirrel case is. Ty Harding has the best spiel on this. He has such a big beef with squirrel cases, it's not even funny. Like, squirrel cases, so let's say the resolution is reforming the FDA's stance on meat, okay? That's the resolution for the whole year. So some people are like, we're going to talk about cows, and the other team's like, we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about pork, and the other team's like, we're going to talk about pigs. And so then this team that is running a squirrel case gets up there and like, so in the middle of Ohio, there's this one factory that processes pygmy chickens, and we fit under the resolution because it's FDA-approved meat. And you're like, yeah, you fit under the resolution, but nobody ever cares or knows about this one factory in Ohio that deals with pygmy chickens. Like, what the heck? Nobody's got any evidence on it. Nobody even knows about it. Why are you talking about it? And the reason that they did it is so that they can win, because they're like, ha ha, nobody will ever know about our case, and we'll just win because nobody will have any evidence, and we can get up there and say, they don't have evidence, and we win. Yes?
Can you just knock it down off of significance?
You can, but if they're supported by evidence and they say, you know what, reforming this factory would significantly, enhance the FDA approval rating, and it would cause an avalanche of other factories to reform their processes also. If they get up there and they have some nut job PhD that says reforming the pygmy chicken factory would create an avalanche of, FDA approval rating, I don't even care. Like, honestly, like, squirrel cases are so stupid. And you're like, dang it, like, I don't have any evidence. I've never heard of this factory. So you get up there and you're like, significance 0.1, significance 0.2, significance 0.3. And you used up 4 of your minutes of time, but you don't got anything left to say. And you don't want to repeat it because it makes the judge feel like you're stupid. Because if you repeat arguments, the judge is like, great, I've already heard this. A lot of people lose to squirrel cases, especially novice debaters, because they just don't know what to do. But as Tyler is going to tell you, they're so easy to beat. And here's a few reasons why. You guys are really going to want to write this down if you're going to compete in the next year's resolutions. So you basically want to make them prove this, because remember, negative has presumption. AF has to prove every point of their case. Basically say this. If it's not a big enough issue to get to Congress today, if it would be laughed off the floor of the House or the Senate, then why are you bringing it up in today's debate round? Make them prove that it has real world significance and real world advocates. Make them prove to you somebody in real life who wants this done, not just a PhD who's like, oh yeah, that would be a good idea, I think. You know, like, even if they have 3 PhDs, PhDs can't change anything. PhDs just theorize about things. PhDs spend time, they get paid to write articles and to write journals. So of course they're going to write about everything in its mother because they get paid to do it. Make them give you a legislator, a congressman, a lawyer, a president, a political candidate running for office in Ohio that advocates their plan. Somebody that realizes in the real world it would be a good idea to change. Because you're like, if it would be laughed off the floor of the State House of Congress today, then the judge should laugh it off of his ballot, basically, because it's not real world. Also, run significance, but don't call it significance. Do impact calculus. What are some of the things that we learned about impacts and claim-worn impacts? Some of the ways you use to weigh impacts. Magnitude. Time frame. Timeline. Scope. Actors. All of that stuff. Reversibility. Exactly. So let's just take the pygmy chicken idea. It can be reversed. The plant has got 7 employees. They're pygmy chickens. The plan would cost $5,000. Who even has ever heard of a pygmy chicken? It's one factory in the middle of Ohio. Nobody cares.
On the whole thing of squirrel cases, sorry for doing this
Yeah,
fast.
go ahead, go ahead.
The squirrel case is one of the most dumbest things.
Most dumbest.
On debate. If you can make fun of it, absolutely
Do it.
Like, I would literally start the speech by saying, why is it pygmy chicken crossed the road?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So do these come up a lot? Like, do people actually do this on a normal basis?
Okay, well, not anything as stupid as my example of pygmy chickens, but there are entire clubs. Like, there's a club in California called Veritas. They literally try to research things that nobody would ever think of just so their teams can win.
Yep.
And it's so annoying.
We had a team back in my region, and they were decently
Yeah.
good players, but they only ran squirrel cases
Yeah.
because they knew they would win with it.
And it so degrades the league. And I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick just because I really want you guys to understand this. And squirrel cases degrade the league. They provide for bad competition. Good competition is when a good team that is well prepared hits a good team that is well prepared, they're both educated, and one wins. That's where education happens. When a good team with a case nobody knows about versus a good team that doesn't have any preparation, they win and nothing happens. They're like, great, I learned nothing in that round, I wasn't prepared, and we lost because we weren't able to debate at our best because we weren't prepared. That it's exactly, nobody wins in that scenario.